We're going to be sticking in Western Canada for the remainder of today's videos, starting out with a guy that I think has started to enter the realm of doubt as to whether or not things will get done in due order. We're talking about the Calgary Flames and one Connor Zary, giving an update on his contract situation and asking whether or not an offer sheet is looking like a possibility here. Now, Zary is an interesting name. He's a very good young player. 23 years old, center winger. He can play all forward positions. 6 feet, 179, left-handed guy. Maybe not the biggest dude in the world, but still a very talented piece. Drafted 24th overall by Calgary in the 2020 NHL Entry Draft. That was a weird season. It was a weird draft. Seasons got cut short, and a lot of draft talent went all over the place, really. A lot of GMs were just kind of picking guys at random, either because they had good numbers earlier in their careers or because there was some sort of potential longer term. But Connor Zary, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, was drafted 24th overall by Calgary after posting up 86 points in 57 games for Kamloops. That guy was amazing, and he was under a point per game in the AHL the very next season. Now, you gotta remember, during the COVID shutdown year, a lot of these CHL guys were allowed to play in the AHL because some of the CHL leagues either did not play entirely or they got started up late. The WHL got started up late, which is why Zary went back to the Dub as the captain of the Blazers and posted up 24 points in 15 games in 2020-2021. Going back over to the AHL for the next 2 years, he found himself up there at 58 points in 72 games in 2022-2023, before exploding for 10 points in 6 games in 23-24. That was good enough to earn him a full-time Calgary Flames roster spot, where he put up 34 points in 63 games in his rookie year. Now, this previous season, Zary scored 27 points in 54 games. Not bad, admittedly. Sure, it's a little bit of a dip from what he had done the previous season, but as we've been talking about this entire time, a lot of Calgary Flames guys dipped in point production from 23-24 to 24-25. Add to this the idea of the sophomore slump coming to play, people going out there and debating whether or not this guy will suffer at the hands of NHL video scouts who now have a year's worth of footage of him, and it's kind of apparent that he was still fine. He was still a good player. He was still productive. He had 13 goals. He started out the 24-25 season by scoring the overtime winner against the Vancouver Canucks. He had 2 points in that game in 18 minutes. This really set the tone for Connor Zary's beginning of the season, as he scored a whole bunch of points to open things up there for Calgary. But now, Connor Zary still doesn't have a contract, and we're going over to a report that talks about how things are actually quite apart in contract talks between Calgary and Connor Zary. This article will be linked in the description. It was published on ProHockeyRumours.com. It goes out there and talks about Anthony DeMarco's report from Daily Faceoff, how Connor Zary doesn't really have himself all that easy of a path to go down, assuming he wants to get what he wants. The Flames and RFA Connor Zary still have roughly $1 million of a gap to bridge as they continue talks on a new contract. While Calgary prefers a 3-year deal and Zary is open to that term, the Flames are holding firm in the $3 to $3.5 million range annually, D'Amico writes. Zary's ask on a 3-year contract is around $4.5 annually. Zary does have first-round pedigree to fall back on, but his ask on a multi-year deal likely checks in above market value. He'll be 24 in September and only emerge as a full-time NHL option in 23-24, and missed nearly 30 games last year due to injury. When healthy, the 6' forward has comfortably shouldered top 9 minutes, primarily on the wing, and has averaged 19 goals and 43 points per 82 games while seeing 15.39 of action per night. His point-per-game pace decreased from .54 in his rookie year to .5 in 24-25. However, he finished the year with 13 goals and 14 assists in 54 games. Now, this is where we dive into the numbers statistically because the platform year heavily favors Calgary's ask. AFP Analytics' projection at the beginning of the summer for a short-term deal was 3 years at around $3.4 million, right in the ballpark of the Flames' offer. As such, it's hard to envision GM Craig Conroy moving the goalposts much further than they're currently set. Zary is not eligible for salary arbitration this summer since his age upon signing his first NHL contract was 18. He requires 4 years of experience with at least 10 games played. That means he won't be eligible for arbitration next year if he signs a 1-year deal either. He'd need at least 2 to make him arbitration eligible upon expiry, and a 3-year deal would leave him just 1 year away from UFA eligibility. The article does a pretty good job at kind of just encapsulating everything. AFP Analytics saying that Connor Zary should be worth around 3.4 is right in line with what Calgary is offering in $3 to $3.5 million a year. Doesn't seem like they'd be too willing to go much higher. And because of that, because Zary is $1 million away from what the Calgary Flames ask is, this is why we are diving into Connor Zary contract talks and whether or not this guy could be an offer sheet target. Oh boy. This is another piece that we'll leave in the description. It dives into the idea of an offer sheet for Zary. It essentially dives into a lot of the same info that we had read in the previous article, but then it goes out there and says here at the bottom, if this contract impasse persists, Zary could be a tempting target for an offer sheet, particularly from Western Canadian rivals like the Jets, Oilers, or Canucks, who could be salivating at the chance to exploit Calgary's cap management and poach a budding young star. They would much rather Zary on their side of the lineup than with a rival, and we imagine the Flames surely feel the same way too. Could we see an offer sheet from Winnipeg, Edmonton, or Vancouver for this Calgary Flames young stud? Now, I'm going to say this right here. I know a number of people in my city. England is my city, and if it weren't for Team 10, I know a number of people here in Vancouver, BC, around the area in BC, that would absolutely love it if Connor Zary found himself in Vancouver. Sure, the guy is from Saskey, baby, but this is a guy who was a really, really good Kamloops Blazer, and that will never be taken away from him. Kamloops here in BC has a very dedicated fan base, and a lot of them happen to be Canucks fans. So Connor Zary coming back over to Van in this way would be very nice. And quite frankly, I think there's a lot of longer-term potential that Zary can provide, along with solid top 9 minutes at the moment. I do kind of question if you get Zary, like, are you just essentially getting somebody to play Niels Höglander's role again? But at the same time, you think about some of the aging of these Canucks guys. Evander Kane is old. You've got Brock Besser, who's in the second half of his career pretty much. There are some other guys that happen to be on, let's say, the beginning of the end to their careers. It's not like the Canucks are a super young team on forwards. Connor Zary would add a lot of nice elements there with his production and his work ethic and his skill. I mean, that overtime goal he scored against Vancouver in Game 1 of the last season, I think, sets the tone entirely. And then there are some other teams that are talked about here as well. Winnipeg, they're always looking for more talent. If they're able to get themselves a guy from Saskatchewan, I think there's a lot to like there. Maybe he's going to be used to playing out there in the middle of nowhere, mid-Canada. Edmonton would also be looking to add maybe some younger talent that can replace the minutes freed up by guys like Holloway and the guys that they ended up losing out on this year. Now, sure, they got some guys. They re-signed Trent Frederick to a massive contract, massive as in the term. They got some really interesting names like Mangiapane. They got Isaac Howard. I think Connor Zary and Isaac Howard together, they could be a really nice duo. I actually like that idea a lot. But ultimately, it's going to depend on whether or not Calgary's willing to match. If they go out there and accept a contract offer at $375 or whatever, then maybe they're moving the goalposts a little bit. If it gets higher than that, who knows if they're comfortable with it, especially if it's an offer sheet capacity. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of a Connor Zary offer sheet? What are your thoughts on Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Vancouver? I hope you enjoyed this video. And by.